Yeah, I don't know what the problem was, man, but welcome anyways, nonetheless. You're live with your partner right now, man. It is actually we are on the brinks of going into summertime, so it's getting close. Welcome back, man. You wouldn't believe the challenges that I just incurred in order to get to this space right here with you today. So I do appreciate you tapping in, man. Those who are listening from around the world, we really appreciate you. I know there's been some delays in terms of getting you guys content, but it will come. Make sure you guys hit the subscription button to the YouTube so that you do not miss another episode, man. So, what's been going on? How's things been? How have you been? What's your mental state like right now? Right? That's the most important thing is how you feel. Trust me on that. So, if you feel good, you'll look good and you'll potentially do good. So this episode is called Incremental Game. This is episode 23 of season 5. Incremental game. What is that, man? So what does incremental mean just in general, right? It means something that wasn't necessarily expected, right? So we talk about incremental game. This is things that you didn't expect on your path, right? Anybody read The Alchemist, things like that. You kind of get the gist of what's going on, right? But that's what we're talking about today, how to pick up incremental game on your way to your dream and what does incremental game look like? Because a lot of times what happens is we already possess that or the tools in order to get the incremental game going. We just forgot that God already provided. But before we get to more of the details of this particular episode, I want you guys to hit the subscription button. Also, think about why you're even listening. Don't listen because you're my partner. Don't listen because, we went to school together. Don't listen because we're actually friends. That's not doing me a favor. Listen because you actually want to or not. I'm asking people not to listen who aren't necessarily interested because you need to find out what connects with you, right? Because we've talked about opportunity costs in the past. I could be robbing you from an opportunity of someone who can connect better with you if you don't find this connection relevant, right? I'm not for everyone. Understanding that makes it easier for me to digest and makes it easier for me to have that same level of passion that I had initially when I started this podcast. So I want to maintain that same level of passion, but I do want, if not any, I don't, doesn't matter. This is stuff that potentially could be archived and it could be listened to hundreds of years from now. That's what I'm doing this for, right? So a lot of times the advice may not be relevant to you, may not be where you are in life. It may not be, my voice may not be consistent with your ears. It could be whatever, right? It took me a while to try to understand like why do people gravitate towards this and not gravitate towards me? Well, that's not for me to understand. That's not my position, that's not my point, right? And I'm not selling something that's topical right now. I'm not selling sex. I'm not selling violence. I'm not selling extras. I'm not selling juice. I'm not selling fight and violence. I'm not selling any of that. I'm selling hard work. I'm selling dedication. I'm selling dream building one brick at a time on some Will Smith shit. Right. That's what I'm actually and everybody doesn't want that. People want to go about things really quick. Right. People want to lose weight fast. They want to get big fast. They want to get rich fast, all these things fast. And I'm sitting there watching, like, man, I've seen quick rises and quick falls. They hurt the worst, right? A slow rise, right? That seems to be more appropriate than a fast rise and a fast fall because it is sometimes it's difficult for people to come back. So I'll stay in my lane in my position, right? I'll stay in my lane in my position until it's time for me to be called up. I don't want to be called up before my time or before I'm ready, if at all me. I'd rather be my kids. I'm getting to where I'm beyond humble. It's like I was talking to my wife about flexing. And I was just like, I don't flex anymore, and I don't really see it. I'm studying conspicuous consumption, which is all about flexing. And the more I learn about that, the more I don't want to do it. And that's just me. I don't even talk about it in general. I'm like, man, I low key didn't want to post this. Like, I'm not gonna tell anybody. I'm gonna just go live and not say anything because I don't want it to be like, hey, 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 look at me. Because I think that we fall in love with that and we become addicted to that attention. And along with that attention that we become addicted to that person's opinion, right? Not only that attention, but the opinion that comes behind that. And that right there is unbelievably dangerous because I've been listening to people my entire lives and really validating myself or trying to get them to validate me, right? Through them, through their opinion, through whether they believe in me or not, whether they see me or not. And I was like, I can't live my life like this. Not for the second half, right? If I'm here for 100 years, if I'm here for 80 years, at least this second half, I'm not living according to what someone else believes or according to what someone else's opinion is, right? And I got into that caught up when we talked about that with the restaurant. Here I am talking about it. Like, why am I talking about this? For what? You know, I used to, same thing with like rims and cars. Like, why am I getting these cars? Why am I getting these rims? And in 99% of the time, it wasn't for me. It had nothing to do with me. It has something to do with how I thought people would view me. So when we talk about consumption, right, we talk about buying things, they're usually tied to how someone is going to view us, which is why we buy brands, right? So when we buy a brand, even like with minorities, we buy the loudest one. We want the big logo because we've not been seen for so many years that now that we've accumulated some wealth, that now we purchase things in order to be seen. I've seen brothers wearing Bass Pro Shop hats. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I said, but when I was in class, there was a Latina lady, young lady, who told me why people were wearing that now. And it was because of a Mexican singer wore it one concert or something like that, which people started wearing it and you start seeing men. So now I start seeing brothers wearing it. I'm like, we wore Bass Pro Shops when we fish, but not now as a fashion statement. That's us being followers, right? And a lot of people are that. And I don't have a problem with that. But the thing about it is, I was like, I could change my style in order to appease a few people. I could change what I'm talking about in order to appease a few people. I could change what I'm saying, my whole direction in this podcast in order to assimilate and try to do what someone else is doing. The one thing that I'm learning though over time is the more true you are to yourself, and I know that that's a generic cliche that you hear all the freaking time. Be true to yourself. What the hell does that mean? Well, it actually does have a definition. And what it means is that you need to understand who you are really. Not who you've been built to be, not who you've been hardened to be, right? Because I grew up in Southeast where it was just everybody was fighting the football or basketball. That was pretty much it. There was nothing else, right? You either sold dope, gang bang, fought football, basketball. But I don't even remember the in-betweens and the squares. I'm gonna put it like that. I don't even remember them. So we would always have to live up to this identity, right? That we had to be hard, we had to be game off Southeast, whoopty wham, this and this and that. And a lot of times that wasn't what we actually were. We weren't that. We just happened to be there. But who we were, we were souls. We were souls that were destined for something. All right. And a lot of times what we do is we get intercepted by the enemy before we get on our path to greatness. So we're all souls that are destined for greatness. But at the same time, when we're growing up, we start to get formulated by our environment. And a lot of times, based on different circumstances, our parents may, and it's not their fault at all. It could be a financial thing, it could be a whatever thing. But at that time and at that moment, and nobody's looking at things from I don't no regrets. But that was the environment that you grew up in, and it's not necessarily something that was conducive of or helped you in where you'll be in the future. Now, not to say that it didn't contribute, because I believe that every experience that we have contributes to where we're going to land in some point in the future. So my D boy skill, I always use this example. I'm like, man, the way I used to ride as a D boy will allow me to ride like that as a restaurant owner, right? Because this is LA. People get killed. People assume you running, going home with the bag. You might have to hit a few corners. You know what I'm saying? You might have to not necessarily go the same route every day. You might have to go different routes, right? To throw people off. How would I know that? Come from the game. Other things, other people may not know that. You're a restaurant owner, you're a square, whatever. You didn't. So I look at those type of situations and I say, yeah, man, it was kind of messed up that we had to be thrown into the fire like that. But God, there's no accident. So this is going to be ultimately beneficial to you later. And that brings me full circle to what we're talking about today with incremental gain. A lot of times incremental gain can come in the form of something that you may not necessarily be expecting at that time, right? How you can parlay that into an actual income, or how you can parlay that into an actual opportunity. Incremental gain comes from different places. Incremental gain can come from your job. Incremental gain can come from a friend of yours. Incremental gain can come from an idea. I'll never forget. You should watch or listen to the episode with Ellis, Ellis White from San Diego, the homie, and he talks about credit, right? And shout out to him. He's giving me so much game on that, man. I cannot stress that enough. Thank you, my brother. But he's a credit repair. Autodactic.com. Autodictac.com. Am I saying that right? Autodactic. Google it. But he does credit repair. He does a whole bunch of stuff. But he's a self-taught individual. And that's kind of what the company talks about. And when you listen to the episode, I'll just give you a short synopsis of what he said. He was like, "D, I was up late at night and I was watching this thing and it's talking about credit repair, and I bought the book." Right? That simple. I think the problem with people is they don't see the opportunity to take action. And when they do see it, they usually don't. Right? You'll see an opportunity. You're like, man, that wasn't there. There's no accidental encounters, right? Just FYI. So that wasn't an accidental encounter. But if you run into something, you usually blow it off. Like, man, nah. The incremental game comes in opportunities that we usually blow off. It's the opportunities that we usually blow off is when we could pick up the incremental gain. There was a guy that had a video out and he was talking about Rick Ross. Rick Ross just had this car show, like this annual car show. He has an annual car show every year on his property in Georgia. And the guy was talking about the people in Atlanta in the local area, how they used to call it. It's now called Promised Land, the Promised Land. And when they had it, when Holyfield had it, they had called it, that's Holyfield, go up to Holyfield's property, et cetera, et cetera. And he used to he used to put extravagant Christmas lights on there and da 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 da. This is Holyfield. Evander Holyfield was those who listen to international, was a heavyweight champion. Now he was a big deal back in the Tyson days, right? He's the one that actually beat Tyson, got his ear bitten off, etc. So they were talking about when Holyfield had that property, how he saw it as a burden at that time. It was big. It was, I think his kids were grown at that time. He didn't really see any use for it. And it was just, he got rid of it. I don't know if it foreclosed or whatever, but he didn't really do much to it. The most he actually did with the property was that light show. And Rick Ross bought the property and he just went crazy with it, right? He's got the biggest pool, I think, in America or something like that. So the guy was saying he does equestrian training there. People can bring their horses. They shot the Coming to America movie, so he's already made some revenue off of that. They shot that movie there. They have that car show, which he said brings in crazy revenue. And when you think about all that stuff, those are all really, really good examples of incremental gain. But more importantly, what you're really learning is one man's burden can actually be one man's, or how the guy positioned it. He said one man's bill can be one man's. Oh, I forgot how he said it, but it was dope how he said it. And I was like, man, that was such a profound video and such a profound way to analyze opportunity and incremental gain, right? Because one person could say, like the tour business, I had to go do that to understand that I didn't want to do that, right? But somebody could take that and run with it and be like, man, I could make $1 million off it. I thought I could too. I'm not saying that they can't. They very well make, and the enthusiasm in there, you could see something and say, you know what, you didn't see the value in it. You didn't see the value in the house. I saw it. I have a vision for it. There's I forget what book it's in, but there's a guy who talks about describing a landscape, and he just goes into detail and sees everything. And I could see this, and I could see the stream, and this is where the horses are run. And he had such a detailed vision of what he wanted. It was like, versus someone else who has more of oh, this is raggedy, or it is what it is, right? The situation is what it is. And I challenge you guys to keep an optimistic eye open, right? Because the thing about it is opportunities don't always look like that initially. Our relationships don't. Nothing looks like it does on the surface. Some things look easier. The restaurant game, perfect example. We thought it was going to take 4 or 5 months, going on 12 months, 7 months over what we anticipated, right? So you think about these things, but things happen. And what do you do in between that time? This is where you pick up incremental game. So I had the opportunity to look up some things that someone had given me in the past, right? Because now you have this time to feel. So you can find out different opportunities. What else can I learn in the process? Right? What can I learn in the process? So I had to tighten myself up. I had an opportunity to do more research. I had an opportunity to learn the math side of the research, right? The test, the analyst, analysis that we run, how we run them, why we run them, all those things. What else can I learn in the process? Okay, so I got some things on fixing credit. Shout out to the homie, right? I don't even think he remembers that he gave it to me. He gave me everything I need. That's something that I could pass on to my family member, or I could do it myself, right? One or the two. And those are the type of things that are going to actually get you to where you need to be, right? It's the little small things. It's the things that you don't expect, right? Where is there an opportunity for me to do something that not necessarily on the books, right? I don't necessarily have to. I can go learn this. Okay, well, let me go step over here and learn this. Okay, they're teaching this. Okay, well, let me just go see what a real estate broker does. Let me go see what an insurance broker does. Right? I don't have to commit to anything, but let me just be curious, right? Because curiosity will get you riches. Period. Right? The more curious you are about a certain subject or a certain topic, there's always opportunities, right? And you got to go in there and not necessarily be acceptant of the no that you're going to receive, because a lot of times, oftentimes, you're going to hear no, or you're going to get a rude person that's going to try to deter you. That's part of the game, right? God wants to see if you're really serious about it, if you're really going to move on it. Same thing with me, right? I've been tested unbelievably over the last 7 months. I get tested every day, right? The more clear you are with your vision, the more tested you will be. The main goal is to throw you off, right? Throw you off. If I can throw you off, if I can just get you off your path, I'm good. That's how the enemy thinks, right? So even talking to me today, unbelievably difficult to get on here, unbelievably. But it was smoke and mirrors. It wasn't really that difficult. It just seems that way. And oftentimes we see opportunities, they look really, oh man, I can't do that. I can't do that. Or I don't know how to do this. Google it. Get cracking and learn. I tell my students all the time, I give them extra credit for taking advantage of certain certificates. There's social media certificates that you can get through SEMrush. A lot of people don't even know this. So search engine marketing, right? We talk about search engine optimization, search engine marketing. Search engine marketing is learning how to buy AdWords and line your content up with search terms that people are looking for on the internet. Real simple. But there's certifications. There's a company called SEMrush, SEM Rush, who certifies people in this. And they give us this program through our college. If you're signed up for the class, where you can get a certification in digital marketing, digital advertising, et cetera, et cetera. And I give my students the opportunity to do this all the time. And about 50% of them do it. About 50% of them do it. And the thing that frustrates me the most is, like, when there's free game, why not take it? Why not take advantage of the free game? Google also offers certification. I've shown that on this podcast probably 10 times easily, right? So many different things that could teach you how to do things. Canva's turning into some amazing things, right? With the artificial intelligence, we can create everything, right? We don't have to rely on a graphic artist anymore. So what do you need to do, right? You want to create t-shirts? Start with one or two, right? Everybody thinks you have to start really big with things, right? And oftentimes that's the obstacle that prevents us from even starting. Right? They call them barriers to entry in business, right? How large is the barrier to entry, right? So when you think about soda manufacturing, when you think about all these different large manufacturing type processes, there are barriers to entry. Well, the game is kind of changed now, right? We even got 3D printing where that barrier to entry in terms of even modeling things in terms of R&D has kind of dissipated, right? It doesn't necessarily exist as much as it used to, right? Now we have microbreweries, right, that are competing and actually kicking mainstream breweries' asses. So they don't have to have, they can share processes. We got one facility, but you manufacture 50 types of beers. That's a new process, right? That's more of a sharing type situation. So, right, we have t-shirts, screen printing. These machines used to be crazy expensive. Now they're not so much. Right? So there's more opportunity now, right? But the thing about it is, with more opportunity, more choice, sometimes that presents a problem, right? The analysis, paralysis of analysis, or however you say it, that's kind of what that presents. So the more TV channels we have, the more we complain about the ain't shit to watch, right? So now we have the more opportunities for hustle. We got Etsy, we got offer up, we got all these different things. We can make cakes, we can rent out our swimming pools. There's 1,000 different hustles, and nobody will pick up one, right? Because it's like when we go through that drive through at times. Right, there's 100 things, right? But I know when I go to In and Out, I'm going. They specialize in cheeseburgers. So when I want a cheeseburger, I'm going to the cheeseburger people. So I got to do a talk later on this month, and my talk is going to be called "The Riches Are in the Niches." And a lot of people don't understand that, but that says so much about being original. It says so much about finding your space in the world and capitalizing on that. It says so much about that. So I'm going to talk about one, what is a niche? What is competitive advantage, right? Inserting a lot of business terms in the conversation. Why? Because you have to present yourself as such. Businesses always seek incremental opportunities, right? They to invest in something else or to buy this or to go ahead and get in this early, right? Be an early investor. There's opportunities everywhere to improve your game. Library, start with the library. If you don't know where to start with your interest. Going over to something that you're curious about. Open up the book. I told my son that last night, man, go to the library, grab this book. I don't know if he did it or not, but at the same time, I'm telling him something that's going to save him later. Earlier in the game, I tried to get him a computer kit for these cell phones. He could be fixing PS2 controls that have stick drift because we about to pay somebody because I damn sure ain't taking that thing apart. But these are opportunities to make incremental gain. Income taxes. Like if I buy a TurboTax, I can do everybody's income tax on my computer, right? All my family members. That's a hustle. That's an incremental game. And then it's not only that, it's getting you tight on your taxes as well. These are all ways to improve yourself small that nobody notices, right? People talk about losing weight. And I'm saying, man, it's not going to be you that notices it. It's going to be somebody else. And the same thing with incremental gain. Next thing you know, you're going to look up and somebody's going to say that, man, you off the hook. Man, I see you out here. Like, damn, I'm just taking advantage of the opportunities that the world and God are presenting to me. So yeah, I might be out there. I feel good about that. I feel good. At the same time, you are going to deal with challenges too, right? So a lot of times you something may not work out. The tour business didn't necessarily work out. I tried social media marketing and I was good at that. That didn't work out. Why? Because you can't do that and go get clients and go execute the work. That's a lot for one person to endure. I had to learn that. I didn't know that. I'm thinking it's gonna be easy. I just bring my clients on the normal stuff I'll do. There's a little bit more than that. Right. So a lot of times your opportunities aren't necessarily going to pan out. All the more reason why you should be open for opportunities, all the more reason why you should be trying things all the time. Right? You should be experimenting, going places. You're going to see things. They're going to make you curious. They're going to light a light bulb for another idea. Right? You may pick this up and say, okay, so like say for instance, went to Germany. Our Germany trip was 12 years ago, I think. Something like 12 years ago. But the one thing that I picked up that I really liked was their donor fries. We're getting ready to make something just like that. We're calling them, I'm not going to tell y'all what we call them, but we got something similar. Where they're going to be similar setup, smooth. and we got that. That's a new product. But you think about it, I picked that up a long time ago. So the game that you're gonna pick up, the incremental things, the little small things that are gonna make you successful, you probably already possess. You probably already have it. That's the crazy part about it, right? We don't do an inventory check enough to see where we are, right? To check our par levels, right? We don't do that enough to see, okay, man, okay, I'm studying for my GMAT right now. So I'm going through the hardest part of the math. And I'm surprisingly impressing myself. Right. There's some things that I need to work on, granted, but I'm surprisingly impressing myself. Why? I've been spending a lot of time working on math every night. I mean, every day. Khan Academy. I mean, there you can go over there's notes. I'm a scratch paper dealer right now. Because all I deal in is a scratch paper. I need scratch paper, dog. I need to write it down so I can see it. Right. And the good part, the crazy part about the GMAT is they don't really give you enough time to write it down. You gotta kind of know it or kind of have a really good guess. Right. So in the meantime, my incremental gain for that side of my passion and my dream is Khan Academy. And that book, wherever the book is, I have it somewhere around you. The GMAT book that was given to me at the PhD project. The one thing that I took away, I was mad I didn't get the Colorado stuff for my kids, but the one thing that I got, I'm using right now. And you thinking that and a lot of times we're thinking that we're doing it for our purposes. Nah, we ain't doing it for our purposes. We're doing it for our kids' purposes, for somebody else. They're gonna have to come up on that type of math at some point in time too. And they don't want it. And who wants to look at their parents and be like, man, I gotta go to a tutor, I gotta go ask somebody else. Well, I'm gonna just go ask my dad, or I'm gonna go ask my mom. They both know, they've both been to college, they're both educated, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we're doing it for. So the game that you're learning right now, man, shout out saw a documentary, shout out to 27th Street Bakery in LA. And they were talking about the history of that, how it's been passed down to generations. And the lady who's running it now was an Olympic gold medalist back in the day and the 84 Olympics in LA. And she's running it now and it's been around for a long time, right? And it's just talking about how it's been passed down. That's inspirational to me, right? And how they started, they kind of metamorphosed into an actual bakery. It started off as a restaurant and went to an actual bakery. So it was, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because you have to look around you for inspiration. The stories will pop up. I the right people at the right time will show up. The right message at the right time will show up. Even if you confuse lost or you feel like you done broke, you're about to snap and break. Nah, man, it will show up at the right time. I promise you that. Right. And the thing, what I want you guys to really, really um I want to say take home from this episode is that you have to try things. You have to try a lot of things in order to figure out what your niche is, right? Incremental game can come in so many different forms and fashions, right? You have to stay open and you have to show up. You have to read it. Yeah, that thing that came across your desk. Yeah, that book suggestion that you got off of the homegirl on Facebook. You have to go execute it. You have to read that, right? You have to show up to that event that you got invited to that you think is going to be a bunch of weirdos at. Yeah, you got to slide on those, man. You got to go to those. Yeah, because that's where the game is. It's where the enemy thinks you're not gonna show up. It's when the enemy thinks, nah, man, he ain't gonna be there. He wouldn't show up to that. Right? You underestimate them, shock them. You speak to somebody who you ain't normally would speak to. That's how you change the game, right? You switch it up. You do things that aren't necessarily according to schedule, right? That's the main thing you want to do is do things that are off schedule. You are plan on chilling today. Okay, we'll pop over the computer and get cracking. There's a couple things you need to look up, right? It may send you down a rabbit hole. It very well may do that, but it's necessary, right? It's absolutely necessary. Writing things down. I'm back to I never quit, but really on my journaling. Even when I was going through the lowest point, like this is ugly, homie. It's still not all the way pretty, but we getting through it. We're getting through it with prayer. We're getting through it with faith. And I'm understanding what point in the chapter of the success book I'm in. I get it now because I've read other people's books and I remember their chapter. Theirs may have come early, some may have come late, but one thing is for certain that it always came. So I understand that I have to go through these things in order to get to the next level, and that's fine, right? And I'm here to tell you, while you're waiting on your next level, you could pick up incremental game. It can come in the form of so many different ways, dog. But you have to be open to opportunity. You have to show up, and you have to be willing to try something. Real simple. My book suggestion for today is I'm still reading um Money and the Law of Attraction. Fantastic book. I can't get enough of that. So I've been on that probably for the last couple weeks, last at least 2 weeks. So I'm still on that. If you don't know what it looks like, go check out our last live and you'll see it. All right. I will see you guys next week. Appreciate you tapping in for this little 30-minute rendezvous. But we will see you on next week. Tapping out.